want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible.
Leo, we understand this between de facto and de jure segregation, and we understand you're doing it for the money, brother, and we understand why you get emotional, too, because it takes a toll when you got to be the one to dance all the time. But you know the one I was laughing about, Roland, I don't know when this one happened, when Geraldo Rivera went Puerto Rican New York on him, and he lost his mind because he called himself going to roast the sister, our friend, the sister you interviewed.
Tashara Jones.
Tashara Jones, and Geraldo Rivera was like, "When the last time you been to the hood?" And my man, you know how them sellout Negroes get when you question their blackness. They get, because look, I risked it all for this check, and you gonna question my? He had a meltdown. It was hilarious, bro.
Well, since you decided to go ahead and bring that up, I wasn't gonna bring it up. Roll it. Come on, computer, let's go.
We wish her the very best of luck with her policy. Leo, here's the question. She said, "I appreciate the role of white allies in this movement of progress. I don't believe that they have the lived experience to lead a majority-minority city." Okay, so she said that. This will be an interesting social experience, or perhaps even an experiment.
That is the most insulting, racist comment. You know what she's saying? She's saying, because you're white, you don't understand what we as black people go through regarding crime. That makes the assumption then that Joe Biden doesn't know. To say that she is basically in a better position because she's black is insulting, is racist, and it makes no sense whatever. I reject that argument.
Hey, Leo,
that you
when
have
was
to
the
be
last time you were in the ghetto? Wait a second. Wait a second.
Well, how dare you say that, sir? I was born. I lived right near the Coliseum. That's where I was born.
I'm from Avenue C, dude.
I'm from Avenue C. How dare you say that?
That
you know
knowledge
nothing
that
about
I
me.
have is helpful.
How dare you say that?
That knowledge I have is helpful.
Insulting.
That knowledge that I have from my background is helpful.
What are you trying to drop?
Geraldo, do you think?
Let her try. Let her try.
What are you trying to
Let her try to. Let her try a kinder approach. Maybe it'll work.
You know what?
We certainly haven't.
You know what Bill just accused me of? Bill Hammer just accused. Bill. You know what Geraldo accused me of? He accused me of living in a particular area that I don't understand. How dare you? I've been a civil rights attorney for 30 years. I have fought against discrimination for 30 years.
Okay,
check
Jesus on earth.
How dare you?
Listen,
You're fabulous,
I love you both.
How dare you?
Guys, hey, we started out on a moment of peace. That moment is fleeting. We'll try again next week. Thank you, Leo.
The idiot said, "I have fought against discrimination for 30 years." But on the other show, there's no systemic. See what happened. See what happened when you start doing the minstrel show. Sometimes you forget the words to the song, and you just start making up words to the song. And Leo Terrell, I've invited him, as well as that punk ass Vernon Jones out of Georgia. Neither one of them will come talk to black people. Vernon. Bring your ass. I'll be happy to host you. Then I'll be happy to roast you. All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have that you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. There's always a case of people who just don't get it, who literally don't get it. Rob, here's this idiot, Paris Dennard, working for the Republican National Committee on Fox News, literally disagreeing with the CDC. Here we go.
When I heard this statement from the CDC director, I was appalled because instead of focusing on health disparities, which we should do because they're real and COVID highlighted those, the CDC is doing the bidding of the Biden administration by once again inserting racism, and calling people racist for no reason. That's the Democrat Biden-Harris administration playbook. And they're doing this because they want to have the American people think that this nation is inherently racist or systemically racist. But it's not. And I think that all Americans should stand up and ask the question, if these districts, if these communities of color who have been represented by Democrats for so many years are systemically racist, does that make the Democrats who are in control racist as well? I think the CDC should focus on the Communist Party of China. COVID-19 came over to this country and has infected the world, and they should be focused on that. That issue alone is why we have seen so many people die. Yes, disproportionately in the black community, but it's not the fault of racism, it's the fault of China. Focus on that, stand up to China, and stop calling everybody, everything, and everywhere racist. It's wrong.
This is what happens when you are stuck on stupid, Rob. Paris Dennard is an utter idiot for what he just said, and they love to prop up these folks who are just dumb. The CDC, they're calling everyone racist. No, what they're saying is the racism that black people have to deal with on a daily basis has a direct impact on the health of black people.
Yeah, he knows. He knows what they're saying. Like, the only point I have of disagreement is I don't think he's dumb. This is a dumbass statement he's making, and he's doing it so he can get. Because look, you can have a black man make the statement. It's profitable to do so. That's the game that's being played. That's the game he's playing. But he's so disingenuous. There's so much to take apart in what he said. So I could be on another hour because it's just so much garbage. But let me just get to the basics. He starts off by saying they should focus on health disparities. How the hell do you focus on health disparities without acknowledging the fact that the disparities are there because of racism? Racism is structural. So when he says, oh, well, are you saying Democrats are racist? The system is not individual. It is structural. It means it's built in over time. It's like a virus. Let me break it down for him. It mutates over time. And until you actually get it out and you isolate it, it will stay there. So, yes, racism has been a part of America. It's not the only part of America. There are certainly good parts, but this is a part, if you want to improve America, you have to look at. I'd never get conservatives when you say, like, oh, why are you so critical on America? Or you're saying all America is racist. What I'm saying is if you actually love a country, I love the country. I want it to be better. You love your kids. Are you going to tell your kids they're great when they're doing things wrong? No, we need to improve. I don't know why this is hard for him to actually put together. And the last part I want to get is he talks about not being racist and then says something racist. He says we need to blame it all on China. China is the reason why this happens. Knowing we have a rise in Asian hate right now, he adds that in. So he has to be the black man that throws in some racism at the end just to do the bidding of the Republican Party, who wants to have this narrative that if you talk about racism, that's bad. I want people, and I specifically want people on the right to get more offended by racism than they do about being called racist. Get mad about the racism. I can tell you, I'd rather be called a racist than go through racism. It is harder to go through racism than to be called a racist. These people are they talk about cancel culture and people giving them a hard time and people not being tough enough and being snowflakes. They're snowflakes. Every time you call them out on stuff, they get offended and say, oh, why'd you say that? Like, hey, suck it up, buttercup.
Beyond nuts. Michael, real quick.
Well, we all know Paris Dennard is a professional white behind kisser. That's his whole game. That's what pays his bills. We understand that. But what I find interesting is that he doesn't want to address specifically what CDC Director Rochelle Walensky talked about. A growing body of research shows the centuries of racism in this country has had a profound and negative impact on communities of color. He doesn't want to deal with that research. And racism existed before the Republican Party was founded in 1854 and before the Democratic Party was founded in 1828. Racism existed in this country. It's a system of advantage and privilege distributed based upon race. And I'll wrap up with this. As Dr. Francis Cress Welsing and Nellie Fuller correctly taught us, if you do not understand European white supremacy and racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you think that you understand will totally confuse you. So what Paris Dennard is trying to do on behalf of his people, on behalf of the white people who pay him, is trying to distract and confuse us. So we can't go for that okie doke. Look who he worked for in the White House.
All right, folks.
And Trump said systemic racism didn't exist.
Got it. All right, folks. Back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have that you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. It's always something when Republicans start just throwing everything out, y'all. And they act like we can't read, like we can't fact check stuff. I mean, it really does get hilarious as far as I'm concerned when this happens. So the latest thing now is all the Republicans are making a big deal out of Major League Baseball pulling out of the state of Georgia. Yesterday I told you how they were trying to make all these comparisons to Colorado and their voting law. So now the new thing is, black people are losing money because the All-Star game is getting moved. Now they're saying that, if $100 million was going to be generated because of the All-Star game, black businesses and black employees are going to lose half of that. Charles Payne, the brother on Fox Business, literally posted that tweet today. And I had to take exception to what he had to say about that. And the reason I had to take exception to that is because, y'all, let me just be real clear. All of those economic impact studies done by sports leagues or by cities and counties and states about the economic impact of sporting events, they're all trash. They're all trash. So, for instance, if you say that the Major League Baseball All-Star Game was going to contribute $100 million. Here's what happens. What economists do, they say, if X number of people come to a city for an event, and they're going to stay in hotels for X number of days, and then they're going to eat out X number of times, they're going to rent X number of cars, and they go through this whole formula to try to come up with that number. Economists have been doing that to justify when these sports leagues say, if we build this new stadium, it's going to result in $3 billion of economic activity. It's going to create 3,000 and 4,000 and 5,000 jobs. Y'all, it happens every time, and they're always lying. The reason I know this is because I was a City Hall reporter for the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. When Bruton Smith announced that he was going to be building a NASCAR track in Fort Worth. And all of these fantastic reports about how much money was going to be generated, Well, not really. Now, NASCAR is a little bit different because typically what happens is a lot of those fans, they'll come and spend the whole week leading up to a race. But when you hear these things about the Super Bowl and NBA All-Star Game and Major League Baseball All-Star Game, these one-off events, they're mostly lying, y'all. So I challenged Charles on this. I said, well, Charles, I need you to somehow show me the numbers. Because he contended in his tweet that black people, black businesses, and black employees would be losing 50 million of that 100 million. And he based that upon Atlanta being 51% black. Well, first of all, here's a problem, Charles. And you're a nice guy. The baseball stadium is not in Atlanta. It was moved out to Cobb County. A lot of white folks in Cobb County. 2, how many black people own hotels in Atlanta or Metro Atlanta? I'll wait. And of the black businesses, how many of those are restaurants where people are going to be going and eating? Second of all, we have COVID. Stadium's not going to be full. So the typical parties corporations throw, events, golf tournaments, using event planners, catering companies, limo companies, none of those things are going to be happening. So the $100 million is really nonsense. And so it's another point that I obliterated. Now, yeah, they just walk folks down with facts because they can't handle those facts. All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have that you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Stunning, shocking testimony today in the trial of ex-Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin. It focused on the cause of George Floyd's death. Prosecutors called a respiratory expert and a forensic toxicology expert to the stand to adjudicate George Floyd's demise. Folks, this is stunning what took place in the courtroom today. Watch this.
So we see here that he reaches a level of 0 of oxygen at 20, 25, 41. And so at that point, there's not an ounce of oxygen left in his body, in his entire body at 20, 25, 41.
And so was the knee then lifted off of his neck at the point there was no more oxygen in his body?
No, the knee remained on the neck for another 3 minutes and 2 seconds after we reached the point where there was not 1 ounce of oxygen left in the body.
Thank you, doctor. Have you formed an opinion to a reasonable degree of medical certainty as to what the cause is or was for the low level of oxygen in Mr. Floyd?
Yes, I have.
Would you tell us what that is?
The cause of the low level of oxygen was shallow breathing. Small breaths, small tidal volumes, shallow breaths that weren't able to carry the air through his lungs down to the essential areas of the lungs that get oxygen into the blood and get rid of the carbon dioxide. That's the alveoli at the bottom of the lung. Officer Chauvin's knee is coming in, and that's compressing in against his side as well. So the ability to expand his left side here is enormously impaired. And also you're seeing that the size of the chain between the right side and the left side, is very short. So his whole left arm is also being pulled over. And so it's preventing him also from expanding the right side. I've been focusing on the bucket handle and the pump handle on the left, but you can also see here that these are impaired, his ability to expand his chest. And of course, the key factor you must keep that isn't kind of, in a sense, seen here in one sense, is the street. The street is what is having a huge effect because he's jammed down against the street. And so the street is playing a major role in preventing him from expanding his chest. As we discussed, you're seeing a more clear view here, how it's been really rammed into the back of his back. There's just no way he's going to be able to expand that. But with the left image, you see the finger on the street. Then over on the right image, you see his knuckle against the tire. And to most people, this doesn't look terribly significant, but to a physiologist, this is extraordinarily significant, because this tells you that he has used up his resources and he is now literally trying to breathe with his fingers and knuckles. Because when you begin to breathe with your rib cage and your diaphragm. The next thing you recruit after that is your sternomastoid muscle, which is the big muscle in your neck. And then when those are wasted up, then you're relying on these types of muscles, like your fingers, to try and stabilize your whole right side, because he's totally dependent on getting air into the right side. So he's using his fingers and his knuckles against the street to try and crank up the right side of his chest. This is his only way to try and get air to get into the right lung.
Do you have an opinion to a reasonable degree of medical certainty as to whether a person who had none of those pre-existing health conditions, a healthy person, would have died under the same circumstances as Mr. Floyd?
Yes, a healthy person subjected to what Mr. Floyd was subjected to would have died as a result of what he was subjected to.
So Mr. Floyd's ratio is roughly just a little bit below the median ratio in DUI. So in postmortem cases, we know fentanyl concentrations can be much higher than norfentanyl concentrations because frequently these are deaths due to fentanyl. Other drugs may be present, and there could be other reasons for the death. It doesn't say that these are all fentanyl intoxications. But just looking at it as a whole, with a large amount of data, this is what we observed.
Joining us right now is Attorney Ben Crump, of course, who represents the several family members of George Floyd's family. Ben, this was it was amazing to listen to what the doctor said, walking through this thing in a very methodical way. So that was first. But the second thing, Ben, is the prosecutors have been extremely deliberate how they're walking this thing down with the emotional testimony in week one, setting up the week with the officers, and then ending the week here with this particular doctor yesterday as well. Your assessment of how this has been going so far?
Well, I think it's extremely compelling what Keith Ellison and his team have been doing, and they have been very strategic, as you said, Roland Martin, doing the lay witness, the emotional witnesses at the very beginning of the trial, then talking about the use of force expert that I thought was most compelling, because you had the police chief and other police officers for the first time that we've seen in a profound way come out from behind the blue wall of silence and tell the truth, hopefully setting a new precedence in America. But today was really, I think, the nail in Derek Chauvin's defense, Roland, when you had these expert witnesses tell us so convincingly what was the cause of death that was consistent, Roland Martin, with what we saw the first time we saw that video where George Floyd was tortured for 9 minutes and 29 seconds. They corroborated what we saw in the video with the medical science. And so I think for any juror sitting there, it is more than enough evidence to hold Derek Chauvin criminally liable for killing George Floyd.
I think when you begin to examine, again, this very methodical nature, we've watched the defense really be cornered and trapped, if you will, by having actual police officers, even on the force, testify against Derek Chauvin.
Yeah, and it was riveting to us, and I don't know why it still is riveting. That's what police should do in every case, but we never see it. Roland, you covered Laquan McDonald's case a lot as well, where the young brother was shot 16 times in the back. And even in that case, the police chief and the department still said that it was a justified shooting and killing of that young black man. So this is really a powerful and unusual testimony that we saw happen in the Derek Chauvin trial regarding the death of George Floyd. And just to hear that black police chief really go and so matter-of-factly say that this was absolutely unnecessary, what Derek Chauvin did was just powerful testimony.
The obviously the defense is now the opportunity to present their case. This is all on the prosecution right now. But just your assessment of how this has gone thus far in terms of how they have presented and laid this case out. How is the Floyd family feeling about what they're seeing and hearing each day in these last 9 days?
Yeah, and Roland, they're praying a lot. You have met this family. They're from your home state, and they are cautiously optimistic. I know Attorney Monique Presley, and I talked to them some today about why we feel that the state is doing a good job. And we know we've been doing this long enough, Roland Martin, to know we can't take a conviction for granted. But this is the best prosecution of a police officer charged with killing a black person in America that I have seen in my professional career. So I'm very grateful to Attorney Keith Ellison, the first black attorney general in the state of Minnesota, who's a Democrat. And when you compare that to Breonna Taylor, Daniel Cameron, this black attorney general who's a Republican, and how he did everything in his power to exonerate the police, it goes to show you that black voters matter and elections have consequences.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have that you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. I love this one here, y'all. I got to reach out. So Texas Governor Greg Abbott sent this weak-ass letter to the Texas Rangers baseball team. Dear Mr. Liebman, this is addressed to Mr. Neil Liebman. Thank you for the invitation to throw out the first pitch at the Texas Rangers home opening game. I was looking forward to it until Major League Baseball adopted what has turned out to be a false narrative about the election law reforms in Georgia. And based on that false narrative, moved the MLB All-Star game from Atlanta. It is shameful that America's pastime is not only being influenced by partisan political politics, but also perpetuating false political narratives. The state of Texas was proud to help MLB host last season's National League playoff games and the World Series in Arlington. However, I will not participate in an event held by MLB, and the state will not seek to host the All-Star Game or any other MLB special events. This decision does not diminish the deep respect I have for the Texas Rangers baseball organization, which is outstanding from top to bottom. I wish the team great success this season. Teresa, I've never seen a bunch of weak-ass, impotent people. There's no group who thinks they're bigger victims than the Republican Party. Oh my God. Everyone, these are election reforms. No. This is promoting the big lie. This is all about kissing Trump's ass and the crazy, deranged, sick, demented people who support him. They are angry that they lost. And so what they want to do is cheat. They're trying to cheat in your state by literally getting rid of statewide elected Supreme Court justices because they're mad with their judicial decision. These people love to talk about judicial activism. What they're saying is, if it don't go our way, we're going to change the rules. They're spoiled brats.
Yeah, and I've never seen anything like it. And I think this is a moment in history where we're starting to see the case study really unfold, starting in Georgia. Then, of course, you got Arizona, Michigan, and, of course, my hometown of Pennsylvania, where we've seen, Republican legislators have been ruling for decades. And so because of this election, I think they have now become emboldened. So once we saw, Trump lose the election, I believe all that money that Trump was raising for the campaign also all spread to start other committees so they can do voter suppression laws. Georgia is really the case study that I think everybody is paying attention to and also seeing what works and what doesn't. So I think every state and every legislator that is Democrat and also those who are Republican who knows this is wrong and really want to get on the right side of change really need to start understanding that this is coming to a state near you. And we also need to prepare ourselves by not just being on the defense mode, but also finding some solutions, also using their power of the pen to really ensure that the democratic process is not only a fair one, but a just one for future generations to come.
Here's the whole deal for me, Michael. Now their new one is, okay, I mean, look at the laws in New York. We're going to change those too. I mean, that to me is what's hilarious. This new complaint, well, there are more early voting days in Georgia than there are in New York. So you think actually endorsing, there have been progressives who have been advocating for a very long time a change in New York's archaic voting law system. Y'all, that ain't one to stand on.
No, it's not. And, the whole politics of, how it intertwines with sports, we've always had civil disobedience and certainly athletes and celebrities standing up. But I don't know if it ever really transcended like it did during 45's years after, obviously, Colin Kaepernick took his knee and then tell him, fire all the sons of bitches or whatever 45 said. It became a different kind of, more in the gutter about athletes and celebrities. I know that the right thinks that most athletes and celebrities are Democrats or on the left. And so they take hits at that. But it doesn't help. To the first part of your question of the segment, it doesn't help when business leaders kind of get very marshmallowish when these issues pop up. There's no reason in the world, obviously, whether it's Delta, Coca-Cola, or a host of other companies that are based in Georgia, saw this coming. They knew that the governor was going to sign it. So there's not like it came as a shock. So those first statements that came out that I just call a little marshmallowish, frankly wrong, and then they had to backpedal. And if you're a Republican or a right leader, you know they're going to act marshmallowish, so you're able to bully them too. And that's what happened. And so until you stop being marshmallow and come out and really take a stand and really, and then you can't just threaten to leave or threaten to do something. You have to do it. That's really the only thing that's going to matter to folks. Not that they care about a lot of those jobs, even though they, again, think the perception is that a lot of those jobs at the airport and at the Coca-Cola bottling plants are people of color and low-wage earners, so they don't care about them. That's not true. There are a lot of white folks that work at Delta and a lot of white folks that work at Coca-Cola. So obviously the hypocrisy is ridiculous, but until business leaders stand up, this kind of behavior is going to continue.
Look, this is real simple, Cleo. If y'all don't want corporations coming after you, if y'all don't want the woke mob coming after you, how about you not embracing white supremacy? How about that? Let's do a trade-off. We won't cancel your ass if you don't embrace white supremacy. I think that's fair.
You being so mean to these poor Republicans.
I don't give a damn about any of them. I don't give a damn about any of them.
I don't either. I'm being somewhat sarcastic, though. You are being mean, but I agree with the mean.
Yes, I'm being very mean. I'm being very petty because they are trash, despicable people who are also sore losers. You got your ass whooped. Here's the whole deal. Okay, you're mad. You got your ass whooped. Take the L.
But as you know, these people always get mad. And they've always gotten mad, and they always have started saying stuff like, what this guy just said, that because of Stacey Abrams and Biden's lies, the team left Atlanta. It's not logical. But we'll see how this rolls out ultimately, because they've been lying and being illogical and moving the goalpost and saying things that aren't true. I mean, Donald Trump, the former president, lied all the way to the White House and lied all the way in the White House. And from my perspective, if it wasn't for COVID-19, he would still be in the White House. So it'll be interesting to see how this all rolls out, because despite white supremacy, these people who love white powers, despite their kicking and screaming, it seems that they're losing. It seems that they're losing based on voting and all logical things. But the lies have worked for them. And mixed messages and stretching the truth has worked. So the fact that he hasn't finished singing, we'll see how it goes.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Been frozen out.
Facing an extinction level event.
We don't fight this fight right now. You're not going to have black owners. In an open letter posted to Revolt.tv, Sean Diddy Combs joined the call of action to large corporations, including GM, to increase its ad budget for black-owned companies. This is what he wrote. If you are neutral first of all, he said, the same feet these companies use to stand with us in solidarity are the same feet they use to stand on our necks. When confronted by the leaders of several black-owned media companies, General Motors, GM, listed My Network, Revolt, as an example of the black-owned media it supports. While Revolt does receive advertising revenue from GM, our relationship is not an example of success. Instead, Revolt, just like other black-owned media companies, fights for crumbs while GM makes billions of dollars every year from the black community. Exposing GM's historic refusal to fairly invest in black-owned media is not an assassination of character. It's exposing the way GM and many other advertisers have always treated us. No longer can corporate America manipulate our community into believing that incremental progress is acceptable action. Corporations like General Motors have exploited our culture, undermined our power, and excluded black entrepreneurs from participating in the value created by black consumers. In 2019, brands spent $239 billion on advertising. Less than 1% of that was invested in black-owned media companies. Out of the roughly $3 billion General Motors spent on advertising, we estimate only $10 million was invested in black-owned media. Only $10 million out of $3 billion. Like the rest of corporate America, General Motors is telling us to sit, shut up, and be happy with what we get. It's disrespectful that black-owned media companies only represent 1% of the total advertising market. It's disrespectful that distributors refuse to carry black-owned media brands in an era where our impact and influence is undeniable. It's disrespectful that the same community that represents 14% of the population spends over $1.4 trillion annually is still the most economically undervalued and undeserved at every level. Underserved at every level. To repeat, $1.4 trillion annually. The almighty black dollar. We demand that corporate America reinvest an equitable percentage of what you take from our community back into our community. If the black-owned community represents 15% of your revenue, black-owned media should receive at least 15% of the advertising spend. The same way you understand the power of our dollars, we understand our power to take them away from any corporation that doesn't give us the economic inclusion we deserve. We are prepared to weaponize our dollars. If you love us, pay us. Not a token investment, not a charity check or donation. The time is now. Radical change is the only option. You're either with us or you are on the other side. Let's go to our panel. You know, yesterday I talked about Target announcing they were going to spend $2 billion by 2025. And I sent them an email, Greg, and I said, first of all, how much are you spending right now? Because you're trying to get to $2 billion by 2025. I said, then separate black-owned media from the other black businesses. I said, so we can actually see what's your black-owned media and what's your supplier development. General Motors, after we met with them, they said they were doing 2% with black-owned media. They announced that by 2022 they would be doing 4%, and then the goal by 2025 is doing 8%. We argued, why in the hell can't you do 8% right now? They responded by, again, listing these black-owned media companies that they're doing business with. Here's Diddy saying, yeah, we one of them, but y'all ain't sitting here doing what you should be doing with us. Bottom line is this here. The only way to force these people to the table is going back to April 3rd, 1968, when Dr. King said we must redistribute the pain.
You're right, Roland. And you've walked us through on several occasions how Diddy ended up with Revolt TV in the first place. It had something to do with that Viacom merger, right? And we see Byron Allen saying that he merging from a meeting with Viacom over some negotiations, no details were disclosed. But this is where it's critical for us to understand this at a deeper level. Just like I'm often say there is no we when we start talking about America. There is no we often when we start talking about capitalism. See, capitalism has a racial dimension, but please don't mistake race for class. What do I mean by this? This movement, including Diddy's letter, is indicative of the fact that these corporations are a little nervous. But it will be classic capitalism for them to pick a few black folk and Revolt TV will be one. Give them some subsidy and say, see, this is what we're doing. This is very important. This is why I'll be interested to hear Brittany and Misha, both of y'all on this, because I'm too old. But because I'm a teacher, I know what the young people, a little bit of what they do on social media, and I'm dip my toe in Twitter. I am cracking up at all these Mace pictures that are coming up in Diddy's feed. And people saying, dude, ain't nobody forgot that you're the one that don't pay black artists. So see, Diddy black as hell if there's 5 cents to make. And what capitalists will do is pick out in the class structure a handful of petty bourgeois Negroes, which is why any demand must be equitably distributed around black media. It's those little women-owned companies. It's those little companies. Write the check to Roland Martin Unfiltered. But don't mess around and think because Diddy is right on this, that he is no different than a clock that is always right at least twice a day.
The thing here, to Greg's point there, Brittany, about how folks try to pick folks off, is when we met with General Motors, we said it should be $200 million a year going to black-owned media companies, and we want a 10-year agreement with 5% escalators in the contract. That was on a Monday. Wednesday, because they had not set a meeting, now we met with the chief marketing officer of General Motors, but we requested a meeting with the CEO, Mary Barra. They did not schedule that meeting. So an ad was taken out in the Wednesday paper. They got angry that there was a second ad and then canceled the Thursday meeting. On Thursday, General Motors announced their target goals of 4% by 2022, 8% by 2025, but Mayor Barra still has not met with us. Now, here's what they have been doing. And see, again, I'll be transparent. They have been calling around trying to meet with us individually.
Of course.
Perfect example. They drastically cut the funding of American Black Film Festival, almost down to zero. Well, a week after our meeting, this was posted by Jeff Friday in the American Black Film Festival. They posted this. Go to my computer. Happy to have Cadillac GM Diversity return as a multi-year partner for ABFF and ABFF honors.
Wow.
Now, I know how much they got. And here's the deal. They could have gotten more had they negotiated as a collective.
Hello.
See, what we're trying to tell the other black-owned media companies is don't get picked off. Because, see, General Motors has not agreed to our demand. What we said is, you're spending X billions of dollars. We want X percentage, 5% of that. We estimate it's come out to be $200 million. They say our numbers are wrong. We say, what's your numbers? They say, well, we can't give you for competitive reasons. Well, don't tell me my number wrong if you can't give me the right number. Then we estimated that the black spin was 5 or 6 million. They said, your numbers are wrong. What's the right number? We can't check. Well, don't tell me my number's wrong. You can't give me the right number. So they've reached out to me for a meeting. And here's my whole deal. I'll meet, but we still want the meeting with the CEO. Because my deal is, why do we have to wait to 2022? Y'all, it's April 2021. The upfronts just started. Why we gotta wait to April 2022 for you to get to 4% when you can do it right now?
Roland, I have to laugh. You really almost have to laugh. I mean, and thank you for talking about this. Let me just say, you've been talking about this issue and bringing this important issue to the forefront of our community for a long time. And I stand with you on this and everybody who's speaking up about this issue, because it's time for corporate America to reinvest an equitable percentage of what they take from our community back into our community. We made and continue to make corporate America and the wealth it generates possible without getting a piece of the pie. And when we think of the way that GM responded, it felt so patronizing, right? Like you said, they want to tell you that all your figures are wrong, but don't want to tell you what the figures are. They want to send representatives, but they don't want to have you speak to the CEO. They want to give you long-term projections, like they don't have the money right this second to fund Black-owned media. That's a joke.
See, it means
think that they can continue to incrementally give us the funds that are necessary is so patronizing and so offensive.
But actually, guess what, Manisha? They can. And the reason that they can is when Black people play themselves small. All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have that you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Oh, let's talk about this case in Texas where on her 46th birthday, the family of an unarmed Black woman was shot and killed by a Baytown police officer. In May of 2019, they have filed a federal civil rights lawsuit today. Pamela Turner encountered Officer Juan De La Cruz, and she was in emotional distress. De La Cruz was indicted by Harris County Grand Jury in September 2020, more than a year after Turner's death. He's charged with felony aggravated assault by a public servant. Ben, you put a video out, and this took place in Baytown, Texas, or Bel Air, Texas?
Baytown, Texas.
Okay, Baytown, Texas. And so Baytown, folks, is east of Houston. If you're traveling up towards Beaumont, Texas, towards Louisiana, you would go through Baytown. I know it very well. I have lots of relatives who live there. I saw a video that you put out on Instagram describing how heinous this is. I want to play that and then talk about it. So here we go.
If you were outraged when you saw the video of how police tragically killed George Floyd in Minneapolis, Minnesota, then you should be equally outraged when you see the video of how the police tragically killed Pam Turner, an unarmed Black woman in Baytown, Texas.
Pop the
It is shocking and stunning, Ben Crump, to watch that video and to think that his only way of containing her was to shoot and kill her?
Yeah, it is just so outrageous, Roland, when you think about it. Attorney Devin Jacob and I filed a federal civil rights wrongful death lawsuit, and it goes to this disrespect for black women. I mean, to shoot her down like a dog when he could have did any number of things. Monique Preston and I talked about how he could have created distance. He could have called for backup. He could have got behind cars. He could have yelled verbal commands. He could have did any number of things other than fire 5 shots, hitting Pamela Turner 3 times, 1 in the face, 1 in the chest, 1 in the stomach, and this unarmed black woman who was on her back screaming, "I'm pregnant." I mean, Roland, if you are outraged by George Floyd, we gotta get outraged in justice for Pamela Turner. Breonna Taylor's mother, Tamika Palmer, came to Houston to stand with Chelsea Rubin, the 23-year-old daughter of Pamela Turner, who has pretty much been fighting a lot alone by herself. So I'm so grateful, Roland, that you're covering this matter, because we need everybody to stand with our black women. We got to protect our black women. They cannot be killed like this and nobody say a word about it.
And this took place in 2019, 2 years ago?
2 years ago, May 13th. And so we're going to march on Baytown on May 13th. If you're free, we would love to have you come back home to help lead the effort, because I do think this is going to continue to grow like Breonna Taylor. And it's one of those things where Breonna's mother is going to come. We're going to show the world that her life matters. And get this, Roland Martin, he's still employed by the Baytown Police Department.
He is still a cop?
He is still a cop.
Was he put on desk duty?
Well, they have him, I guess, on desk duty or whatever, but they have not terminated his employment yet. And when you think about the disrespect between black women and what they get, when George Floyd video went public, how he was killed, in 90 hours, they terminated all the police officers. I asked at the press conference when we were there with Tamika Palmer, how long did it take for them to fire the police officers after they killed Breonna Taylor? And she told me it took 9 months for them to fire the police officer after they killed her daughter, who was in her own apartment. And now it's almost 2 years, and Baytown, Texas, still hasn't fired the police officer.
That is absolutely shocking and stunning, and so certainly keep us abreast of the developments in there. And you said there's going to be a public demonstration on May 13th?
May 13th, the 2-year anniversary.
Okay. All right then.
Oh, and also, Roland, the criminal trial is set to begin on May 25th, which ironically is the 1-year anniversary of the killing of George Floyd.
Wow. That is, and also the officer was indicted. What was the charge?
It was assault by a public officer, like a manslaughter charge, not a murder charge.
Not a murder charge.
Right.
Wow. Ben Crump, we certainly appreciate it. Thank you so very much. And let me say this here, and Ben, while I have you, I need people to understand, Ben Crump does not try criminal cases. I need to say that, Ben, because I get all these people and they comment on YouTube and on social media. Ben Crump keeps losing these cases. You're not the prosecutor. The attorney for the family cannot prosecute cases. You can't indict anybody. You can file a civil lawsuit. You can negotiate settlements for families, but you don't get to prosecute anybody.
Exactly. The 7th Amendment of the Constitution say all the private law you can do is file a lawsuit for compensation for wrongful death. It's the 10th Amendment. The prosecutors are who they should be upset and holding accountable. But Roland, thank you for always giving a voice to educate us and engage us, and most importantly, empower our people. You are so necessary to the culture.
Ben, I certainly appreciate it. Thanks a bunch. We'll talk to you soon.
God bless. Thank you.
Man, that video there is shocking, stunning to sit there and witness. And the fact that it took place 2 years ago and just finding out about it is even more stunning as well. Just unbelievable. Let me go to my panel. Dr. Greg Carr's chair, Department of Afro-American Studies at Howard University. Amisha Cross, political analyst and Democratic strategist, and Brittany Lee Lewis, she's political analyst. Glad to have you both. Brittany, to see that video, that's a pregnant black woman. And I keep going back to this issue of sending police, the woman's in emotional distress. We keep sending cops, people who are trained to kill people, to resolve these mental issues. This is what happens, and you get these white cops whose first instinct is, oh, I can't control this black woman. Boom, 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 you're dead.
Roland, let me just say, first off, I'm still shaken by watching the film. Like I'm almost to the point of tears, because they truly do not view us as humans. That is, and I think that's the thing that hurts me the most. They do not view us as humans. And I think this goes back to the bigger question, right? If this trial, if that video that we just watched, if all of the years, the decades, the centuries of police brutality and Black death at the hands of the police doesn't teach us anything, it's that police training is not a full-on solution to this problem. We can't train them into viewing us as humans. We can't train them into respecting us. It's a Band-Aid to a much more complex issue. And I know I always say this on the show, but again, we have to go back to the roots of policing and why policing exists in the first place. It is certainly not to protect and serve us as Black folks. And I hope that we can continue to demand to, defund the police for this very reason, because like you said earlier, this is not only do they not view us as humans, but they're also, even if they are to stay in place in the current, in the current way that they are, they're not trained to deal with medical emergencies. They are not trained to deal, at least not adequately, and they shouldn't be dealing with these issues because they don't have the necessary skill set. So I pray that we continue to push for defunding the police and thinking of new ways to envision public safety.
Greg Carr, it is indescribable to have to talk about these type of videos. There are people who say, yo, we shouldn't show them. But too much of me is like Mamie Till Mobley. No, America needs to see what they did to my baby. Because if we act as if, no, don't show it, that's just too much. No, it needs to be seared in the minds of America.
Agreed. I agree with what you said, Brittany. We have to now not rethink, but really think about public safety. We are not part of the public. Not only are we not human, we are not living creatures. We are a threat to be neutralized. This bastard LaCruz shouldn't be comfortable in his bed at night. He shouldn't be comfortable on the job. He shouldn't be comfortable going back and forth to the job. He should be living in the same fear for his life that we live in. At that point, we could talk about a common framework. There is no common framework. Black people are to be killed. Black men are to be killed. Black women are to be killed. Billie Holiday's birthday was yesterday. She was handcuffed to the bed that she died in by the goddamn federal government, agents of the police, because she was not a human being. Pamela Turner cannot receive justice. Justice would be at least restoring her life, and it'd be beautiful, wouldn't it be, if we could just exchange De La Cruz's life for hers? Every time you pull your taser out, you punk, you get tased yourself. Every time you empty your clip into a black woman, those bullets go into your body. What we saw in Minnesota today We can't be distracted. And later on we'll talk about voting rights, but the parallel is this. What Eric Nelson is counting on, the defense attorney for Chauvin and his team, they're counting on one person in that jury who does not look at black people as human. So while we are all, as human beings, bowled over by Dr. Tobin's description today, that all the oxygen had left George Floyd's body, and that cracker kneeled on him for another 3 minutes and 2 seconds, as we heard the testimony yesterday of all the experts that said this isn't a question of meth or anything else that killed George Floyd. Understand that the logic at play, whether it be there in Texas or in Minnesota, is this. Is there one on the jury who will say and agree with Nelson's cocktail of meth, rage, criminal? He's a big criminal, and there was a mob threatening me, so that they say, like that cop shooting the sister, you know what? You had to do it, man, because these are dangerous things. There is no common framework of understanding. So until we understand that, and showing these videos maybe gets us a little step closer, but we then have to change the language to interpret what those videos are showing us. Until we understand that, we will continue to bark up the wrong tree in this country and start talking, well, I can't believe. No, not only should you believe it, you should expect it, because this is the thing that this criminal enterprise was set up to do since the day that these people showed up on these shores and did it to the Native Americans.
Amisha, we talk about reckoning, we talk about where we are. We dealt with people who, oh, no, don't say defund, because, we don't want to get the white folks riled up. This is where we have to be so hardcore that we say, no, we will not stop. We will not stop. I mean, Sunday was the 53rd anniversary of the murder of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And I've interviewed Reverend Jackson, Ambassador Andrew Young, Bill Lucy, Reverend Dr. James Lawson, all the individuals who were there, who were in Memphis. And what is still stunning to me is to hear them say that even as they sat in room 306 of the Lorraine Motel, hours earlier he had been murdered. Their focus was, we cannot stop. We will not stop. John Lewis told me he didn't grieve for another 3 months. What I'm saying is, to this generation, we gotta ratchet it even more. Put even more pressure. We saw those protests last year. We can't let America sleep. I'm sitting here. So when Ben said, and I'm looking now, and again, folks, this is what happens when you don't have to seek permission. I'm looking here. Give me a second. Yeah, I can go ahead and say it. We'll be in Baytown May 13th to broadcast that march. We'll be there. I don't have to ask anybody else's opinion. We have to keep this stuff front and center, because MSNBC is not going to do it. CNN is not going to do it. Fox News is not going to do it. We have no choice but to continue to press and press and press.
No, you're absolutely correct, Roland. And to your point just a few moments ago, our mere existence as Black people in this country causes white people to be riled up. We don't have to be doing anything but living and raising our kids. And at the end of the day, white people are going to be riled up. Let us not, get highfalutin and actually want to have rights as ensured by, us being born under the red, white, and blue right here in these United States, and actually push to have our civil rights recognized. That's us taking a bridge too far. I feel like what we're seeing right now, and I hate the term racial reckoning, I really do, because racial reckoning is thrown about in this country whenever the rest of the globe sees us and asks, what the hell are you doing, United States? How do you actually police the entire rest of the globe about, about having these anti-democratic standards, about their failure to actually recognize humanity. Meanwhile, in your own backyard, you are treating Black people worse than dogs. You are holding your knee on people. You are holding your knee on the neck of a man. And we're watching this trial continue to go forward, where we've heard from a pulmonologist who made it very clear in no uncertain terms that the knee on the neck of George Floyd, the cutting off of his oxygen, was what caused his death. Not any level of drugs, not any past drug history, nothing in that day would have caused his death other than the knee on the neck. And he made it also clear that it could have been you or I or anyone else who was an otherwise healthy person with no prior history of drug abuse whatsoever, and had a sustained knee been on our neck in the exact same framework for over 9 minutes, we would not have made it either. So I think that what we're seeing here is basically, again, a televised process of brutality against African Americans. And I would hope that we see jurors that understand what's going on. I don't have a very strong hope for it, but I do hope that we see jurors that understand what's going on, but also that African Americans of all ages aren't lulled away by this and have full recognition that, yes, corporations are signing these pledges. Yes, we're seeing some movement by them in terms of heralding Black Lives Matter, but it's going to be more than that. These same corporations play this song and dance every few years after there is a major issue where a unarmed African American dies. Then we watch, as soon as it's no longer at the helm of MSNBC or it's no longer played on loop on CNN, when those stations no longer care, guess what? That outside world no longer cares either. But we still have these issues facing our community every single day. So I do thank, our forebears when it comes to the civil rights movement, our forebears who were able to continue to carry that lantern, to continue to force change, even though they watched, the folks who watched Martin Luther King die, who marched with him and then sat in the room and had those conversations and were able to somehow keep their mourning within themselves, but continue to do the work that is worth doing. That's the work that we all have to do and all have to be invested in, because as we can see on a daily basis, our very humanity is at risk, because the greater society, the white society that continues to ignore our existence, and our existence as not only humans, but people that are worthy of being treated equally. That's not something that they're willing to do, and that's not something that the majority of them are actually willing to even stand for. Give you a little, but not too much. But if you start talking about equity in general, no, because that puts you on the same framework and the same platform as them. And they don't want that. And they will fight to the end to eradicate it. That's the reason we saw the January 6th insurrection. That's the reason why people won't let go of a lot of these theories that they call Trumpism that existed long before Trump, but actually were said out loud during his presidency. It's not going away anytime too soon. And I think that we have to be invested in this long haul fight, because that's what we're in for.
Folks, look, I'm making the commitment. We'll be there. Pamela Turner, May 13th, the protest that will take place in Baytown, Texas, which is not far from Houston at all. We want to see as many of you there. I will get details from Ben Crump and others with regards to all of this information, to provide it for you. We will make our way down there to broadcast that as well, because again, we need to be able to keep the focus on that. We'll also find out if that trial is going to be broadcast like we're seeing the George Floyd trial right now. And if so, we're going to make sure that we carry it right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have that you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible.
In February, the owners of an Arizona food truck, What You Cooking, were assaulted by a white man during a business meeting. The couple now fears the man will not be properly charged for the hate crime. Folks, wait till you see this video. So in this particular video, we first saw this on Now This. And I got to show you this video here. They were sitting in this meeting. Then all of a sudden, the man just pulls out a gun on them in the middle of the meeting. They call the cops. It takes the cops 11 minutes to get there. Just shocking and stunning. Watch this. Okay, again, it's an unbelievable story here, and joining me now, the co-owners of What You Cooking food truck, Brittany and Solomon Odabajo. Glad to have both of you with us. First and foremost, so set it up for our audience. You were working with this shared kitchen, correct?
Yes, so we were renting the refrigerator unit and a freezer unit. It's a commissary kitchen, and we were also prepping our meals so we can sell on our food truck with this kitchen.
And so y'all go there for a meeting. What was the purpose of the meeting?
So after only using their kitchen 4 times, and my husband, we received a notice, a 30-day notice. They no longer wanted us in their kitchen. So Tom, too, told us that he wanted to meet with us on February 5th to discuss reasons of departure.
All right. And so y'all go to this meeting, and what happens in this meeting here, Solomon? He comes in with an All Lives Matter, and he starts complaining and ripping Black Lives Matter?
So my wife was in a meeting. She can actually, that part, I was getting a food truck serviced before all that. Like, it led up, I got there when it led up to, you see me sitting at the table. He put up the weapon, but my wife was there when he brought the All Lives Matter shirt. You know, he's banging on the table, and it had, you know, the words black crossed out, you know, first on the shirt, then it has white, and then it left straight and gate open. But, you know, this thing for departure, that shirt doesn't have anything to do with, you know, departure.
So Brittany, you're sitting there, then all of a sudden, just out of the blue, he just comes in with his All Lives Matter shirt and starts ranting against Black Lives Matter?
Yeah, so I was just sitting there, and I noticed when he was walking up to me where he wanted to meet at, I noticed he had a piece of clothing folded in his hand. And, you know, once we began talking and he started giving reasons of why he didn't want us there, he became enraged, and he starts unfolding the shirt, and he shows me the shirt, and he just starts yelling at me and calling me racist and pointing at me. And he begins telling me, you know, I can sit here all day, excuse my French, but he's like, I can sit here all day and tell you how shitty your business is, and wouldn't get much. Like, he just kept going on and on. He was just so enraged. And I told him, you know, I said, Tom, you need to remain professional and calm down. And, you know, at that point I was like, you know, call your husband, get him here, because he was making me feel very uncomfortable.
So had y'all before had any conversation about Black Lives Matter? Did y'all have BLM posters on your truck? Did y'all have any previous discussions or run-in over the issue of race or one of these high-profile cases?
No, we did not.
So all of a sudden, dude just come in. He just comes in, just going nuts about Black Lives Matter and All Lives Matter.
Yeah, that's correct. The detective, when
Go ahead.
We met with the prosecutor on the 24th of March, and you know the detective stated like he actually forgot the shirt, so he went back and grabbed the shirt to bring it back to her from the video footage that they have.
So Brittany, this happens. All of a sudden, you call your husband, Solomon.
Yes.
You drop everything to come over there, and
I was getting service.
Huh?
I was in the middle of getting a food truck service. Our batteries had died because the ground wire wasn't connected to the power wire.
And so you race over. How long are you there before he tries to pull a gun out?
Man, we was there. Okay, so I walk in the door.
So like 10 minutes.
It was like 10 minutes before he showed up, but then it was like 15, 20 minutes before he pulled a gun out.
So neither one of you knew he was carrying a gun?
No.
Absolutely. And he didn't have the gun until after my husband, and when we were looking for him, that's when, because when he had the meeting with me, he was sitting up. He was sitting up straight and everything. But if you notice, once my husband comes in, he kind of slouches because he has something in his back, which was found out to be the gun.
So you're saying that when he met with you, the gun wasn't on him, and then when you decided to call your husband, that's when he went and got his gun and put it in the back of his jeans?
Yes.
Correct.
So all of a sudden, okay, you're sitting there, two of you sitting there, and Solomon, when he makes a move, do your mind, is you saying, what is he doing? I think he's going for a gun?
So he took a deep breath. That alerted me off the back. He took a deep breath, and then he hesitated, but I watched his eye contact the whole time, and yes, when he reached for his back weapon.
So all of a sudden you jump up. You begin to wrestle with him. Brittany, he's telling you, call the cops, but you're scared to call the cops.
Yeah, absolutely. Because of the world that we live in today, and you see, African Americans getting killed or minorities getting killed, and just because they have a weapon or just for no apparent reason, and I felt as though the situation didn't look right. We're two African Americans in a white establishment, and there's a weapon involved. I felt like we definitely are going to get stereotyped. This call right now, this can be it for both of us, So I was really nervous, and I just kept reminding myself, I kept saying, you know what, just keep on stressing and stating on the call that we're African American and your husband's African American. He's not the suspect. Just make sure you keep making that clear no matter what. That's my first thought, There was also other tenants in the kitchen, and I was actually thinking to ask them for help before calling authority, honestly.
Man, them folks ran out the door.
Yeah, they ran out the door. They wouldn't give us the address. So it was just it was so scary. Like, that was one of the scariest moments of my life.
And it's like they not even cooperating with the detective, asked them to write a statement or, what happened. They said, oh, we don't even know. We was leaving.
Yeah.
Which was a lie because they all was outside.
Right.
When the incident happened. I mean, they was inside, but then when the incident happened, when the cops got there, everybody moved outside.
So, all right, cops come there. They finally arrive. They detain him. His wife comes, and then what does she do to y'all?
Outside, and we were still writing our reports. And she comes out, and she's just it's basically it's time to go. Come get your stuff. And we were just in shock because, for one, it is a weekend. It's Friday, and it was 4:30-ish. And now all of a sudden we have to get out. Where are we going to store all this inventory?
So when you say all this inventory, you're talking about food.
Correct.
Yes. We had lost a lot of.
How much food did y'all have there in terms of, and what did it cost?
It was like
a couple of thousands worth, probably, because my husband, he travels to go get our meats. And so we had all that stored. We buy bulks of it so that way we will have enough, until we're ready to go back out of town. And so we had our If I had to give an estimate, I want to say about a couple grand.
Yeah, probably a couple grand.
Yeah, like a couple grand. And then that's not even including, because you got to think we have to pay to get all this shipment back. We have to pay to go there, room, you know. So it was just so inconvenient, and it was no remorse. Her husband literally just tried to kill us for no apparent reason.
And so talk about when y'all said y'all did an interview and y'all said that y'all thought y'all were going to lose your food truck and lose your business. How so?
Because going to find a commissary kitchen. Everybody wants $5,000 a month or $4,000 a month, or I mean that's like ridiculous. If you really ask us, but.
So first of all, so you said it's going to cost you for a shared kitchen $4,000 to $5,000 a month for the shared kitchen. Well, what were you paying at this particular place here?
He was only charging us $400 a month.
$400 a month? $400 a month?
50, because they added 450. They had added a $50 fee because they had to add a freezer. Yeah.
So basically, y'all were spending $450 a month, but you start calling other places, it was going to be 10 times that to use their kitchen.
Correct.
Yeah, like their kitchen was actually more convenient. It was close, you know.
And it's paranoid, like anxiety. It's like it gives us this anxiety to be in public, you know, around a bunch of people. We're always paying attention to make sure. Like the first thing I look at is somebody hip. You feel me? Why I got to do that?
Right.
You know, I shouldn't have to live like that. We shouldn't have to live like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the trauma is affecting everybody, not just us, our kids. You know, once again, like our daughter, she's 8. You know, she woke up in the middle of the night, 4:30 in the morning, crying. Oh, I had a bad dream that the guy in the kitchen tried to kill you guys, or tried to hurt us. So, you know, that's like for an 8-year-old to feel that, you know what I'm saying? It's like
nobody should fear
at all.
Yeah.
You know, and then you got to think it's like being in public.
Y'all said that so talk about what the police told y'all. If this guy so what's the status of the case?
So basically, we are being told that he is not.
He might not do any jail time. So basically, they're trying to get him to plead out to one aggravated count, one felonious count with, one disorderly conduct felonious or something like that. But this happened to 2 people. Why is he pleading out to one charge? And then, let alone he put everybody in that kitchen in jeopardy, you know? Right. So it's like.
So would that mean no jail time? Is that what they're saying?
Yeah. And it's a possibility he might, you know, do no jail time or probation. Like how? If the shoe was on the other foot, wouldn't be fair. I have a high bond. They would have never let me out within anywhere from. He went to the hospital right after the situation, but then he was in the hospital for like 6 hours. They let him out at 4:33 in the morning the next day, and they told us they weren't gonna let him out until we file a restraining order.
And they still let him out. And he's still out. So it's like a slap on the wrist. It's like you can go around harassing minorities and then nothing happens. You know,
wow.
He has authority, like power. I feel like not only that, since our story went viral, there has been other tenants that ran it from their kitchen, and they have come forward, and they are minorities.
Correct.
And they said they were harassed as well. There's caught on camera, and just like we told the prosecutor, we asked her, why is he out? And they go, well, he has no history of this. And it's like, well, look at all these mass shooters. Do they have history of this killings? No, they just snapped one day, and that's what he did. Literally, he just snapped for no reason. Like, you've seen it in his eyes. When you see me go over there to try to make sure my husband had him secure, he was to pull the trigger, but his finger was stuck in his shirt. Like the gun was stuck in his shirt, so he couldn't get his finger through the trigger. And it was like he was literally trying to shoot us.
Wow. Folks had the story got posted. Yesterday, and I saw the GoFundMe yesterday, it was at 95,000 when I checked yesterday morning. Folks, go to my computer, please. Right now, it is at $181,655. Y'all are trying to raise $250,000, and you're trying to raise the $250,000 to do what for your business?
So we're trying to transition to a restaurant because, I don't feel safe to even be in a commissary kitchen. Like I think I would just be too paranoid thinking someone's trying to kill me, or, having our own restaurant space would just be way better. Before we even started our food truck, we were doing catering and our menu was much larger. So once we got a food truck, we had to limit it. So we feel, right now is our time to, be able to expand and have our menu that we originally had, a variety of things, instead of, a shorter menu.
Well, folks, y'all could actually go to, if you go to GoFundMe, go back, just put in Solomon and Brittany Odubajo, Odubajo, right there, and you can see the GoFundMe. Solomon and Brittany, we certainly appreciate you for joining us, and certainly good luck, and hopefully this guy will face some jail time for what he tried to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And can we just say, we want to thank everyone who's reached out to us, whether it be a repost or, the money. We really appreciate it, and we feel truly blessed.
All right, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Actually care, so thank you.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you. All right, thank you.
So we were talking earlier, Johanna, about racism being a public health threat. This is a perfect example of what just being black you go through. And so here you have these folks, guy tries to pull a gun out. They are now dealing with PTSD as a result of an act of racism. That has an impact on health.
Exactly. And again, this is just one incident that goes viral, right? And we know so many others. When you have kids who are strip searched after school by police officers, when you have resource officers on campus handcuffing kids for just misbehaving, for speaking too loud, for getting into altercation, which is what children do all the time. So this is what we're talking about, racism being a public health crisis, because it impacts every aspect of our lives. And one can argue that perhaps this man has a mental health issue, but based on the testimony of the young woman, she indicated that others have to come forward. Black tenants in particular have said they have experienced similar action by this landlord. So again, it is a clear example of racism and how it impacts our health. Because now these individuals are not even don't even feel safe to be in the public. And as I'm looking at the young woman, you can tell this is someone who is very frightened, especially considering that they have released this individual from jail, and she doesn't know what this man will do again if he's going to strike back. So I am so sorry for what happened to them, and it breaks my heart, and I wish them much success. And it just shows how giving the American people are in this country, how so many people have rallied behind this young woman and her significant other to support her business and to help her to take her business to the next level. And I wish her nothing but the best.
But this is also, the reality is, we shouldn't have to deal with that. We shouldn't have to go through that. We shouldn't have to experience that. All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible.